When I was 29 years old, I met my now husband. It was an unexpected encounter. We were attracted to each other, gradually developed a deep relationship, and eventually came together. After we got married, we didn't plan to have children. We wanted to be able to focus on our careers and our common interests. We believed we could lead a full and happy life. However, when I was 33 years old, I became pregnant. This unexpected news sent us into deep thought. We realized that this was a precious life and we had a responsibility to care for and love it. We made a joint decision to keep this child. We believed that this child would give us more love and meaning. We began to prepare for the new life that was to come. Shortly after my child was born, I had a terrible dream. I dreamed that I had been in a terrible car accident that resulted in the loss of my life. This dream made me feel very scared and upset. For the next few months, whenever I drove, images of this dream would come to my mind. I told myself that it was just a dream and that I should not see it as some kind of omen. I became very cautious and sensitive to every detail of my driving. Every time I overtook a car or faced a complicated traffic situation, I felt a wave of unease and fear. 3 months later, the accident happened. That day, I was about to pick up my son from my mother's house. After I got off the highway, I was about to make a left turn at the next intersection. As I approached the intersection, I noticed that the traffic light was turning red and I sped up. Just then, a truck came directly at me. Time seemed to slow down and I heard an ear-splitting crash. The large truck slammed into my minivan. The car began to shake violently, and my body swayed uncontrollably from side to side. The violent impact made me feel dizzy. Shards of glass and metal floated in the air. At this time, the airbag suddenly popped out. The strong impact made my consciousness start to become blurred. I tried to open my eyes, but the world around me seemed to become distorted and blurred. It was like my eyes were covered with a fog. I could feel my breathing become rapid and difficult, as if a huge stone was pressing on my chest, making it impossible for me to breathe. After a while, I appeared in a darkness. I was floating in the darkness of space, where there was no concept of time. Everything seemed to have disappeared, leaving only silence. In this darkness, I did not feel fear. I could feel a faint warmth. A huge hand suddenly appeared in the darkness. I followed the hand's guidance and moved quickly through the darkness. As I was moving, I saw some blurred images. I saw my family and friends, all of whom were praying silently. I saw my son smile and the love in his eyes. As I moved, I felt a gradual growth of inner strength. Finally, I came to a beautiful place. A magnificent building appeared in front of me. The building seemed to be floating in the air. Curiously, I walked toward the building. It was like a fantastic temple, emitting a dazzling light. I entered the building, and the air around me was filled with a calm and peaceful atmosphere. The interior of the building looked very complicated. I walked along the passageway, which was lined with beautiful frescoes and sculptures. Suddenly, someone called my name. I turned my head, and there was my grandfather standing behind me. He was accompanied by a guide, whose eyes revealed wisdom. My grandfather whispered, "Son, you have been in a serious car accident, and you can now choose to stay here. This is your true home." I looked down, and I saw the scene of the car accident. I saw that my minivan was very badly damaged. Rescuers were busily working. I saw myself stuck in the car with blood all over my clothes. The wizard told me that this place was full of love and happiness and that there were no troubles here. I didn't give my answer right away. They led me to the top of the building, and I saw a huge throne. On the throne sat a tall man of great stature. However, his face was covered by a mysterious layer of light, so that I could not see his face clearly. But I could still feel the wisdom and power emanating from him. Below the throne, I found many other people in different costumes, who seemed to come from different times. They were kneeling on the ground, gazing reverently at the mysterious figure sitting on the throne. Although I could not identify the mysterious figure, I sensed that his presence had a special meaning for each person. He may be a symbol of wisdom, or perhaps the ruler of this mysterious world. In any case, his presence gave people strength and faith, so that they could find belonging and hope. I felt a special connection with this mysterious figure. I realized that in this beautiful and serene place, I could find the answers to my inner self and gain strength and guidance. I continued to walk toward the throne. As I stood in front of him, he reached out a hand and gently touched my forehead. A warm energy passed into me, and my thoughts gradually cleared. He did not speak, but we could communicate through our consciousness. In this beautiful place, time seemed to lose its meaning. We discussed my life and my work. We also talked about the secrets of the soul. However, these precious memories were later erased as if they belonged only to that particular place. I realized that, as humans, we may not be able to fully understand these secrets, because they are beyond our limited perception. Perhaps it is this uncertainty of not being able to fully understand that will allow us to grow better on Earth. In the end, he told me that I could choose to return to the real world and continue my life's journey, or I could stay in this place. Whichever decision I made, he would respect and accept my choice. I was struggling internally. I stared at the mysterious man, not knowing how to make a choice. At that moment, I thought of my son. If I stayed, what should I do with my son? He was only 6 months old. His father didn't even know how to take care of him. My grandfather reassured me that your son and family would be fine. Time will heal the hurt and your mother will come out of her grief and find the courage to live again. Your husband will also grow out of his grief and learn to care for your son. He went on to explain that death is an inevitable event in life, and it is a lesson we must face and learn. Your loss is also a necessary lesson for those around you. Thoughts of my son make my heart heavy again. I could not bear the thought of him growing up without his mother. Next, I saw my son's future life. When he was about 10 years old, he had a new mother. She was a very kind woman who was very good to my husband and son. I felt a twinge of relief to see how close they were to each other. But she wanted to have another child with her husband. This was not acceptable to me, and I knew that she could not love her children equally. This was not the outcome I wanted. I longed to return to my son and witness his growth and progress. I could not give up my human life, I could not give up my love for my son. I made up my mind that I would return to his side. Eventually, I expressed my decision to the mystic. I told him that I longed to return to my son and that he needed my care and love. The mystic replied gently, "Your decision is wise. Your child needs your guidance and support. But remember, when he grows up, you will have the opportunity to return here again. I know that whether I choose to return to Earth or stay here, love and care will always be with me. I am confident that in due time I will come back to this peaceful place again." The process of returning to Earth was amazing. I began to feel the rhythm of my breath and the warmth of my body. I began to feel the subtle movement of my muscles, and my fingers began to twitch subtly. My eyes opened again, adjusting to the change in light. I could hear the sounds around me. The process was not painful. The moment I returned to my body, I felt a new sense of strength and courage. I found myself lying on a soft bed, covered by a white quilt. I was back in the hospital room. The doctor approached me with a relieved smile on his face. My husband stood by the bed with concern and love in his eyes. He held my hand tightly and said in a gentle voice, "Honey, you're finally awake." I smiled and nodded my head. After I recovered, I left the hospital. When I pushed open the door of my home, I saw my son lying on the bed, playing with his favorite toy. He looked up at me with a smile. I reached out my hands and gently picked him up. I laughed happily. My son smiled back. His smile was so innocent, as if to tell me he could feel my love. Whenever I saw my son smile, I knew I had made the right choice. For a year after the accident, I endured severe pain. 2 years later, the pain still had not left me. This made me become extremely depressed. I began to wonder if I would ever be able to return to normal again. The doctors told me that the pain was more present than they had expected. This news was a disappointment to me. I felt trapped in a rut from which I could not escape, as if I would never be free from the pain. I had fantasized about returning to that loving place, free from the pain and suffering on earth. I felt like that was where I belonged, a place free of pain and disease. However, I knew that my son was the only reason for me to continue living. Although my heart would often yearn to return to that place, I accepted the fact that I was back on earth. I readjusted my mindset and I decided to stop letting pain rule my life. I decided to find the meaning of life. It was an ordinary Monday, and I went to work on time as usual. After finishing my work, I was ready to go to the canteen for lunch. When I was about to finish eating, my stomach started to have a sharp pain. I felt very uncomfortable and I went back to my desk. I decided to take a break with some water, hoping to relieve the pain. I took a sip of water and things didn't get better. I suddenly collapsed and lost consciousness. One of my colleagues quickly called the emergency services. Shortly thereafter, paramedics arrived on the scene and they rushed me to the hospital. Throughout this process, my supervisor stayed by my side, giving me support and comfort. Upon arrival at the hospital, the doctor performed a series of tests and diagnosed me. The doctor told me that my pain was caused by kidney stones. The doctors decided to keep me under further observation to determine the best treatment plan. They explained that surgery may be required if the situation warrants it. My daughter arrived at the hospital with some of my personal belongings as well. During the course of the day, I underwent a series of tests. Due to the increased pain, the doctor gave me some pain medication. This medication helped to relieve some of the pain, but shortly after, I began to experience fever and nausea. A nurse reassured me that things would get better after a while. In the evening, my daughter had to leave the hospital because she had school tomorrow. My sister decided to stay and continue to take care of me. Since she had to work tomorrow, I was adamant that she go home and rest, promising that I would take care of myself. I knew she had hardly eaten all day. However, during the night, I started to vomit. When the nurse learned of my condition, she provided me with some anti-vomiting medication in hopes of relieving my discomfort. Around 10 p.m., the doctors were having an emergency meeting. I told the nurse that my nausea was getting worse. She told me that she could not provide me with any treatment until she checked with my doctor. This meant I had to wait until after the meeting was over. Suddenly, the doctor who had been treating me during the day walked into the room. He told me that he was leaving work and offered me his best wishes that everything would go well. He told the nurse at his side to give me an anti-nausea medication to help relieve my symptoms. Shortly after, I began to feel my eyes become heavy. I felt my body become weak and my breathing became slower and slower. Gradually, I lost consciousness. This condition made me feel very frightened. I realized that I had entered an abnormal state. I tried to call the nurse, but could not make a sound or any movement. I no longer had any control over my body. I remember that my soul was pulled out and a strange feeling filled my whole body. I was detached from my body and suspended above the bed. I was able to clearly see everything that was happening in the hospital. The nurse entered the room and pressed the bedside alarm. She tried to connect me to oxygen. However, there seemed to be a problem with the equipment, and she kept fiddling with the oxygen machine. A group of doctors and nurses were constantly busy around me. Some were preparing syringes and others were adjusting the settings of the apparatus. The doctor was shouting my name while shining a flashlight into my eyes. The doctor told the others that my pupils were dilated. The doctor picked up a syringe and prepared to give me a drug injection in my chest. Then I heard the doctor say that I did not have enough oxygen supply to my brain. At this time, I decided to leave the area. I went out into the corridor of the hospital. I came to the next room. There was an old man lying in the room who was on a ventilator. He was about 60 years old and his hair was silvery gray. He was very tall. As I approached him, I could smell the smell of alcohol coming from him. The old man was lying on a bed, connected to a ventilator. His face looked very tired, probably due to a long illness. The next experience was surreal for me. Suddenly, I appeared in a white room. Everything around me was pure white and full of bright light. The space emanated a strange energy. There were no walls or windows in this room, only a door. I couldn't make out the exact shape of the door, but I knew it was a door. It seemed to be the only exit in this room and exuded a mysterious attraction. The door was in stark contrast to its surroundings, as if it were a gateway to an unknown world. An impulse came over me to walk towards the door and explore everything behind it. I bravely stepped out of the door. I immediately felt an unprecedented sense of relief and peace. There was a superb scent in the air, far more than anything I had ever experienced on Earth. This fragrance was so pure. A hill appeared before my eyes. It was so different from the hills on Earth. They were so spectacular and mysterious that they were completely beyond my imagination of the natural world. These hills emitted a unique glow, shining with soft and enchanting colors. Just as I was admiring the view, suddenly my uncle appeared in front of me. He was exactly the same as I remembered. This made me feel very warm. When I was very young, I spent a long time with my uncle and his family. During that time, my parents had to stay in the hospital for a long time to take care of my brother, who was born prematurely. My uncle and his family selflessly took me in and gave me love and care. Although I was only 4 years old at that time, the memories of that time are very memorable. Seeing my uncle's presence made me feel very close to him. Later, my parents and I moved to another city, and our contact with each other gradually became less and less. For a long time, we rarely saw each other and could only keep in touch by phone. In August 2005, my uncle passed away. He had a tragic fall at home and then fell into a coma and eventually left this world. This was a heavy blow to me. In the last hours of his life, I was at his bedside, watching his life fade away. It was an incredibly difficult and painful time, and my heart was filled with sadness. Here, the encounter with my uncle seemed to have a special meaning. It seemed that my uncle's soul found peace and eternity in this wonderful space. My uncle gazed at me with caring eyes. Suddenly, I felt my uncle's response to me. A kind of communication between souls. Although there was no sound, I could feel it. "Uncle, I don't know what to say, but I want to tell you that even though we have been separated for a long time in the real world, you have always been one of the people closest to my heart." I felt a warm response, as if he was silently telling me that he was always watching over me and supporting me. "Thank you, Uncle, for all you have done for me. Although you have left this world, I know that your soul still exists." In this wonderful space, I had a conversation with my uncle's soul. Although there were no words exchanged, I could feel his love for me. This conversation gave me inner comfort and strength. Finally, my uncle said to me, "Son, it is time to go back. Your daughter needs you. You have to continue to take care of her and give her your endless love and care. I will always be with you, and even though I am not with you, my blessings will always be with you." I understood what he meant and knew I had to return to the real world and fulfill my responsibilities as a mother. Suddenly, I was back in that white room again. This time, I noticed that the door was gone. As I felt confused, the scene around me began to blur, as if it was being slowly erased by some force. I could feel my soul being pulled by a powerful force and re-entered the hospital. I could hear the beating of my heart. My body gradually recovered and I could feel the temperature around me. When I opened my eyes, the nurses told me that I had scared them. Even though my body had recovered, a sense of loss gripped my heart. I didn't want to talk to anyone. This loss made me long to be alone and dwell on my memories. For a long time, I chose to remain silent and did not discuss my experience with anyone. Later in the year, I began to adjust myself and reintegrate into my daily life. Despite my choice to remain silent, deep inside, that amazing experience stayed with me. It had a profound effect on me. I understood that some things cannot be explained in a conventional way, and they can give us unique insights. This experience has changed my outlook on life. I became more tolerant and understanding of others. I began to see life and death from a broader perspective. I learned to look at all my experiences in life in a positive way. I no longer feared death, but looked forward to it. I realized that the real meaning of life is how to live a more meaningful life. My outlook has also shifted, especially on issues related to health. I realized that health is a precious gift and that we should cherish and take good care of our bodies. This experience has also changed the way I deal with problems. I have learned to face challenges and difficulties with a positive attitude. No matter what the outcome is, I will learn from my experience and lessons. I believe that every setback and failure is a part of life and they shape our growth and development. Although I did not meet an angel or God during this experience, I am convinced that God is real. This experience has also strengthened my faith in God. I believe that God plays an important role in everyone's life, giving us strength and guidance. During my coma in the hospital, the lack of oxygen supply to my brain caused damage to my brain, which caused me to develop a mild form of epilepsy. This disease became a part of my life. Although it was a difficult experience, I firmly believe that there is something better waiting for us after death. This belief has given me tremendous strength and courage to persevere. Without my faith and my responsibility to my children, I may not have made it through this difficult time. My faith has become an anchor within me, giving me hope and strength. I believe that after death, we will enter the other world, free from all pain and worries, and attain eternal peace. In addition to my own faith, my children are also my motivation to keep going. As a mother, I must be strong to face difficulties and create a bright future for them,